can you see this person's perspective,
Right.
but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Ooh, we talking about trauma.
Yeah, talking about
Trauma triggered. Have you been triggered? And the last week with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's trial, I think there are people that have responded with trauma triggers going on in their body. And some people don't even realize what's going on in their body as they watch is a trauma trigger. If you've been through an abusive relationship, or someone with borderline personality, histrionic personality disorder, narcissist, or a sociopath issues, any of those kind of things. If you've seen anything from this trial or this court proceeding, it's not a trial, it's a court proceeding. If you've seen anything like that, you might be experiencing some physical discomfort or some things that are going on. So, Teri, let's talk about what a trauma. How does a trauma trigger show up in our body?
Well, in this particular case, since we're talking about things that might be triggering in a way that would impede our highest and best, it's going to be perhaps you aren't sleeping, perhaps you are short or more prickly than normal, if being prickly is your normal thing. Perhaps you're not eating, or you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you're super sensitive or edgy towards people. When our trauma has been awoken and we swim around in it with something such as public display of something like what's going on with these two, it can be very easy to slide into this. The brain goes, oh, I'm in this, and it starts sending messages to the body when in fact you're not in it. It's not your experience, but it can feel very similar, and it can wake up those sleeping parts that you're trying to heal or you're trying to numb.
I have felt things in the last few weeks because you and I met because I was going through trauma. That's how we met. Well, we actually met years before, and I didn't call you till I was really mired up in it.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm always here.
Sometimes it takes a little bit. Getting help is the first step to getting out or to getting relief. I know that you have not been watching any of the court proceedings. That's not where you go. But
I didn't even know first. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know that this guy and this gal had any beef with each other. And until yesterday, I had no idea there was even any kind of anything going on at all. So it's interesting when I see clients show up who have been in tune with it, or listening or watching or re-triggered by it. It's interesting.
Why do we go back to the scene of the accident, so to speak? You know, how we go back and we look at things, even when it's not us, but it's like, for me, watching the proceedings was like watching myself in a similar situation. And immediately I was back in that traumatic courtroom setting. I was back in with accusations and injustice and things like that. So why is it we go back to the scene of the crime and we can't stop watching?
Part of it is because it's an addiction. Like, and I know people are like, man, it's not an addiction, but it really is an addiction, because your brain is bolted into this past memory. So it starts dropping chemicals that keep that alive. The other part of it is that a lot of people need a sense of validation, even though a validation on a screen is not the same validation that they would have in their personal experience. It feels very, it feels true to them to be a validation for them, because many people who find themselves in relationships with a toxic person, they struggle to be seen and heard and to be believed. And so when the world is watching this unfold, you and I spoke in depth this morning
Mhm.
about this, which is why I know more about it now than I did 24 hours ago or even 6 hours ago. But when people are watching these things unfold, and it's like that did happen to me, or that is familiar to me, or that, yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then you hear someone, a professional, on stage or on in what is it, what's it called when they're on, whatever, they go in that little box, whatever that box
Yeah.
is called. And you
On
know,
the
you
stand.
thank you. I'm like, on the, what is it?
Perry
On,
Mason, right
there you
there.
go, Perry Mason. So when they go on the stand and they're in front of the world and they're like, this is valid, this is real, and this happened, then that person that is watching this vicariously goes, so it wasn't
Mhm.
just me.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Not everybody, but many people. So
It
yeah,
wasn't just me.
yeah.
We got a lot of people who've joined us. Elizabeth, hello. Good morning to Tim, and good morning to Leslie, who is there. Elizabeth starts the conversation with, "It never ceases to amaze me how something can seem to come out of nowhere, and bam, we're right back there."
This is true. And as I shared with Devon this morning, we make a conscious choice on some level to be right back there. I've talked with a few people
Mhm.
just in the evening yesterday and today that without knowing what's going on, but I know that they're watching it. Um, one person said, you know, I'm just glued to it. And I'm like, so then consciously or otherwise, you're re-traumatizing yourself because you're glued to it.
Y'all, that would be what Teri does. Like, she points out the thing, okay, you're re-traumatizing yourself. Okay, you can't help if you get blindsided by something,
Not at all.
but you can help if you continuously choose to stay in the blindside moment for hours.
Yes. If you pull yourself out of it and you begin your process of doing what's healthy for you,
Mhm.
then that's working in a solution based way so that you are continuing even in a cycle of chaos to heal yourself without actively participating in that chaos.
You got to leave the chaos to start the healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think after you see it, I mean, I was traumatized just by seeing, I mean, probably total in 24, 48 hours, I've only seen about 15 minutes because I've only let myself see clips. And it was really riveting and probably closure for me to hear the psychiatrist name it something and say, this is a real thing. People do have these disorders and they are this way, because for a while you think you're crazy, you think nobody, this could not be real, this is not real, and all of a sudden it seemed real. Suzanne just joined us, and good morning to Candy, who is with us.
Hello,
um,
ladies.
and Elizabeth, not being believed when we first talk about something can set the whole tone for our recovery and surviving. Amen. That's it. Not feeling believed, whether we are believed or not. I know for myself, I wasn't. So at first, by some people, but you pointed out something today. You said, but some people did.
Mm-hmm.
And you pointed out some of those, including you being one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you had said, but nobody believed me, and I said, yes, they did. But the mind goes into, but all these other people don't. And it's like, but your core group of
Mhm.
people did. So why is that not enough?
Right. And just like the opening of our show and the way we started, our whole reason for doing this, getting out of the victim mindset. And it is a choice. It is as hard to get out of a victim mindset as it is to put down the needle, to put down the pill bottle, to put down the liquor bottle when you are addicted. And
Put down
I
the Twinkie.
well, Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Well, it's part of it, right?
It is part
I
of it
mean,
because
hey, if we're going to go there, let's just dive
let's
in.
just dive
Let's
in.
just
Okay.
dive in and swim around in it. We don't have to start an apology tour, but let's just dive in and swim around in it, because that is
You're right. You're right.
part of it.
Name it and claim it. And because I ate worse in the last 24 hours than I have in the last year. And
Well,
I could not eat. It was like I couldn't stop the feeling. And I was absolutely physically ill. And I haven't felt that way in 6 years. That way from the first time when the trauma happened to me.
right. So the thing with that is, we as human beings, we need answers, right? So we make things, we take situations, we form them to fit our experience. And then if it doesn't quite make us feel a certain way, we trim it away till it does, right? When the truth of the matter is, trauma reactions, trauma responses, addictions, all of those are brain functions. Yes, you can get into chemical dependencies with Twinkies or heroin, but you can get into the dopamine hits of the trauma. It doesn't mean that people want to swim around and stay a victim. I don't think that there's anybody out there, even the people who seem to really take a sense of pride in being in that space. I don't think on their best, clearest day, they really want to be there. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people come out of the woodwork and say, this woman is crazy, and, or he's, making it up. But the truth of it is, we're in no place to sit and judge any of these people, because this is not our life experience. Right. But we can easily be triggered by it.
Easily be triggered when we put ourselves on that stand. We put ourselves in that chair, in whatever side of that coin we fell on. Joyce is joining us. Hello, Joyce. Hello,
Joyce.
Regina. Elizabeth continues with, I can't watch or read about this trial. I know it will not be good for me. Good for you, Elizabeth. That is the first thing, is if and I'm going to go back to a conversation that we had this morning, Teri and I, when we were discussing the show. Let's talk about the movie Psycho, and let's talk about why you don't go back and watch that movie. Just to tie in with what Elizabeth just said.
Oh, I just saw it when I was earlier. I saw a snippet when I was earlier, and it was jarring for me to see that at like 8 or 9 years old. And at 8 or 9 years old, it's not that I won't watch it. I will watch it now, because I know it's not my reality now. But I don't, like, there was years growing up. I mean, I'm talking like till I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I wouldn't take a shower in the house without the door being able to be left open. And if I heard something, if I was traveling, I'd get out of the shower, soap and all, and check the hotel room to make sure, and that's not because as an adult I was going, oh my God, somebody's breaking in. It's because there was an unresolved trauma in there that felt vulnerable. Yeah. And so I needed to take care of myself and check on it. And, is it cuckoo, cuckoo? I don't know if it was for me at the moment, and it felt very real at the moment, Yeah. So our traumas and our triggers can be very real. We just have to recognize that when we're triggered, we're not in that experience again. The brain is going, holy shit, here we go. We've been here once. We're going again. Katie barred the door, buckle down. But if you're sitting back watching it on a screen, you're not reliving your experience. Your brain is triggering your body to go into that place. So you can easily shut the screen time down. You can easily take a walk. You can call a friend. You can have something, that's nourishing to your soul, your mind, your body, and pull yourself away from it. And just like Elizabeth said, she won't even go there because she knows that it's not going to be something she wants to entertain. So good for her for setting that boundary and going, and if she's around people that are like, oh my God, what about this? What is it called? It's not a trial. It's a what? What'd you call it?
Proceedings. Court proceedings.
So like somebody, if they come up to her and they're like, oh my God, Elizabeth, you should just blah, 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 blah. And she can very easily say, that's not my jam. No, thank you. And set a boundary again. We don't have to go, okay, let me hear all about it now, even though I don't want to watch it,
Tim says, amen to that. When you choose to say no, what has happened in the past, and I choose not to be back there and continue with the journey of healing and peace as well as content. So that's good. And Elizabeth, I wasn't either, Devon. It took me several years to be able to talk about it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of people are when they've gone through trauma. Joyce enters the conversation. I'm someone that's kept stuff bottled up inside for most of my life. I've shared more on here about my personal life than ever. Bless you. Well, thanks to you girls.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks for sharing. And we do get really vulnerable in this room. We get very vulnerable and we share, and you guys are amazing. Tim says my addiction now is these new lemon cheesecake laser donuts with a half a glass of Moscato wine. Oh, now, honey, hush, the bomb diggity. Wow. Oh, I love it. And I love how we can bring laughter to this situation because it is heavy. Elizabeth shares, trauma for me is something that gets worse the more secretive we are about it. Amen. I spent a long time in the 90s doing public speaking about being sexually abused and assaulted. When I kept it locked in, my own thoughts made it even worse. Letting it out and acknowledging it in safe environments, key, is so cathartic. Man, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, and safe environments that's the gem right there in the whole statement. Because how many people do we know, or have we been that person in our life where when somebody says, oh my gosh, this is happening to me, we jump on that bandwagon with, oh, well, this has happened to me too. And the next thing you know, you're sharing your trauma, or you are, hostage talking, and someone is just sort of sitting there listening to you like a deer in their headlights going, holy cow. Like I was just saying that, my whatever happened in my life. And suddenly I know that you were abused as a child, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And it's too much. It's being irresponsible with our trauma. And that's typically one of our littles needing to be heard. And when that stage or that platform presents itself, it's like the kid in front of the candy bowl. They're just like, oh my God, I just take it all. I just got to get it all right now while I can get it, because I don't know when I'll get it again.
Wow. And there is that thing, the truth of trauma is we seek to know we're not alone in it, whether we admit that or not. So when I just need to be alone with we seek not to be alone with it, because in that case, it's like, I can walk through this if I've got my community. And, but you have to be careful who you make your community when you're dealing with this. This is really, really tough. Elizabeth, this space you two have created is one of those safe environments for me. Well, bless you. Thank you so much for saying that. We try, we just come out and, we share a lot of our own stuff, our own, what we are.
Absolutely. In this particular, the proceedings that are going on now are going to be triggering for people, just like when, somebody slams on the brakes behind you driving down the road and you look in your rearview mirror and all you see is the grill of their car. It's going to be triggering. There's a lot of different triggerings that happen for people, but being responsible with our own helps us go, okay, where do I go from here? We're either going to be solution-based thinking around this, or we can slip into it, but pull ourselves back out of it. Because, one of the things that I am concerned about, and to say that I'm not vested in these proceedings, I'm really not vested in them. But one of the things from a social aspect that concerns me is that if there's mental illness going on here, this young lady, regardless of how dysfunctional she showed up, because it's being played out in the world, it's probably going to have way more damage, and I know I can hear people going, well, she caused him damage. And yes, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that when we play things out on a world screen, there's always going to be sides. And
Yeah.
so, and one of those sides is that, when,
Mhm.
someone says, well, he's guy. Well, men can be abused too.
That's
And
what
men,
Paul
yeah,
has.
and yeah, and men are taught from an early age that, you know, you not suck it up, but basically, be a man. Like
Mhm.
you don't cry, you don't complain about that stuff
You
because you're
don't hit
seen,
back.
yeah, you don't hit back because you're seen as weak. And that's one of the biggest misjustices our society and parents do to their little boys that grow up to be grown men.
Paul says one good thing coming from the Johnny Depp trial is that abuse can happen to either partner in a relationship and even possibly to both. That's a
Absolutely.
very good point, Paul. And finding out, Elizabeth says, that we're not terminally unique is a game changer. You know.
Yeah.
And then an anonymous comment, what an amazing show. We're glad that you're here. Um, and Joy says, yes, the day I spoke about a childhood experience that has been with me my whole life was a freeing moment for me. Joyce, I'm so glad to hear that. That's why we do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
I still need probably some more counseling and plan to do that when I'm ready. I agree with Elizabeth. I felt so comfortable with this group, and it's been a godsend for me too. Wow. If I miss it because of work, I usually watch it later. That's why streaming is so important. We love to keep these up so you can do this. I'm working on creating all of these in an audio form so you can ride down the road and listen to the podcast. Because there have been a lot of good subjects done. That's why I don't
Yeah.
just flash the comments on the screen. I try to read them so that when we
Mm-hmm.
make audio of these, they're there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I wanted to open that can a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
about men being the abused in a situation, or if it's a same sex couple, maybe the one who seems more physically strong or whatever might get some accusation, but could be the one who's abused. When you work with people or you counsel people, how do you cut through the BS of who's right and who's wrong, who's lying and who's not?
Well, here's the thing about who's right and who's wrong is that each person has their own reason for feeling they're right. So it's not my job to tell somebody who's right and who's wrong, but it
Mm,
is definitely my position to hold space for them so that they can figure that out. And my to say strict bullshit or no bullshit policy um, allows people to do that fairly well. I won't say easily because people resist it, but I can hold a hug pretty long, so they can resist. But I mean, the truth of it is, you don't generally go to seek out support or help or guidance if you really don't want it. And if you do that and you really don't want it, then you'll probably do it once or twice and you go away. Now I have seen many couples where yes, there's been a woman that was physically larger than their partner, or a man that was one partner is much thinner or much shorter, and
mhm.
we would think just because we're visual creatures, well, that's just an unfair fight right there, right out of the gate. Like, nobody's going to believe that
Mhm.
this person did this to this person, and that is untrue. It doesn't matter what size your body in, your trauma is big. So you can, and when our trauma is big, you can be, you could be Attila the Hun. And if your trauma kicks in, you become tiny. You become small because you are, if you're in flight or freeze, you are in that space where you just want to become small and not move. So we'll have
Yeah.
people, I think you had shared with me today, because and I might have this wrong. I might just be adding this in my head. So please correct me if I'm off on this. But because she's a female and he's a male, people will, even the wording, there was some wording that came out apparently where, no one's going to believe you. Well, thank goodness that he did have that proof that was said, but also, anyone can traumatize another person. Size, color, religion, sex, none of that matters. And it can be a variation of gaslighting, a variation of isolations, a variation of explosions. There's a ton of ways to do it. And our physical size, whether you are an NFL defensive end or linebacker, I don't even know the names of the football players, but whatever, one of the big guys, you can still be traumatized by your 5'4" wife. You can be abused.
Yes. Oh, Teri, that's so true. Joyce says, I felt small a lot over the years, even though I'm plenty big to look at. Well, same, that's it.
Yeah.
Candy says, I didn't watch too much of the court proceedings, but I felt very sorry for both of them. When I watched Johnny Depp talking about his childhood traumas, then went into some of the things she did, I realized they both had past traumas just as much as a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Elizabeth adds, men can be victimized and abused too. Trauma isn't reserved for one gender or the other. This is true. Okay, now let's come to wrapping this up. What do we do if we are bearing, whether this court mess triggered it or whatever? If we get triggered in any way, what is a way to get back our sanity and get out of the chaos?
Well, I always throw out the breathing. Breathing is, we breathe all the time anyway. So either we're going to breathe in a cadence that's going to support our overall well-being, or we're going to breathe in one that allows us to be panicked and deregulated. So breathing is a huge one. Reaching out to someone who is a safe container to talk to. Watching a movie or a TV show that just for a moment takes you out of that, what feels like a slippery slope, and you're trying to get your balance. Find your tools that you can use. And if it's journaling, if it's meditation, if it's walking the dog, if it's going out and planting in your garden, whatever it is, breathing is going to be one of your very first go-tos right out of your pocket, because
This is not me now.
Right. A few deep cleansing breaths are going to bring you back grounded. And the reason they bring you back grounded is because you are engaging the chemicals in your brain, which allow you to slow down. They allow your dopamines to regulate. They allow you to be in that space of, and there's so many modalities out there for everybody.
Like Candy points out, EFT tapping, helping with releasing that.
Yeah. So there's things out there that will help. You just have to be willing to find them and to look at them, and not to give up on yourself, because oftentimes we give up on ourselves and we just go, it's just not going to work. It's useless. And then we become easily triggered more often.
Elizabeth offers, this sounds crazy. Video games are my go-to. I get wrapped up in them and my brain goes dead and doesn't keep replaying the tape. So that's it. Sometimes we just have to stop replaying the tapes. Give me some good old Pac-Man.
That's right. It. Or music. Music is wonderful. Put on music with no words, or find your favorite words that you love, or whatever decade it was that you were in that you just love. Give me some Tone Loc. I'm down with it. Baby Got Back and all that. Those are just fun songs to dance to, and to, they just get you out of the present that you were in, and they put you in a new present. It just shifts you just a tinge. And sometimes that's all we need, is to be shifted just that tinge, and then it moves us forward.
Yeah. Suzanne says yard work helps me. That's
yes. you know. And those are and that can be full blown cutting the grass or weeding your flower
Mhm.
beds or planting a couple of flowers or hanging ferns, you know.
Yeah. I hug a goat.
There you go. There you go. Ladies
I
and
need to
gentlemen, you heard it straight from Devon's mouth. She hugs the goat.
well, that might be something we can do. Like we need maybe in our next thing, the next workshop, goat hugging, a
There you
goat
go.
hugging workshop, you know, craziness, Tim likes a good old bluegrass instrumental. It gives me a good old knocking a hole in the floor for releasing things. It's amazing
Mm-hmm.
how we do that. Oh, I love that video with Tobias getting goat kisses. Yes, you can go on my Facebook page and see Tobias. He was just like all up in my stuff.
Yes.
Um,
And that's it. Having a list of things that you enjoy and you love and that are your go-tos, and then be willing, be willing to go there. Because it's real easy to say, I've got all the tools, I got the whole toolbox. I can do all these things and ground myself and regulate myself. I can do it all. But the minute you get on that slippery slope, suddenly it's like, yeah, but that toolbox is out in the garage and I'm just not going to get up and go get it. So instead, I'm going to walk halfway to the garage and I'm going to get a box of Twinkies.
I'm gonna keep on watching this. I know it's triggering me, but I'm gonna get better because of it. I need to see this. I need to see how this all plays out.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that
Lies, lies,
lies.
lies.
Candy says, keep a few personal tools in your belt that can help you any place, anywhere. And I love that. And it's a great way to
Absolutely.
tell people how to reach out to us. Teri, how do they get in touch with you?
They can find me on Instagram under Transcending Turbulence, here on our Facebook Lives under Transcending Turbulence, or terrypugh.com.
And you can reach me. You can send me an email at devonoday@gmail.com. You guys are wonderful. So glad to have you with us, because this wouldn't be a show without you. When you share this and you invite people to be a part of what we do, we're on a lot of different pages: Transcending Turbulence, Devon O'Day, and our YouTube channels. You can actually see my YouTube channel has you and me on the top of the YouTube thing. It's
Our YouTube?
our YouTube. We're
Was
right
that
there.
our Fontanelle YouTube picture? We
Yeah,
probably need an updated picture.
we kind of do, because we
I
have
mean, that was like
we got like a lot of hair now.
I know that was like a couple of years before COVID even came around. So
truth, and it's on my Plain Jane Wisdom page. It's great. So y'all have a beautiful afternoon, and Teri's going
yes,
to take us home.
yes. Again, as Devon said, we appreciate you guys and gals so much, and being with us and sharing and trusting us, and the fact that you share some of your most sweetest thoughts and secrets with us.
Amen.
That is priceless, and we both want you to know that it's valued and that we hear you and we see you. So until we see you next week, increase the peace and have a great day.